Hello students, welcome to Misostudy again. In the today's session, we will be talking about some CBSE pattern question exercise for the chapter for the Biodiversity and Conservation. Now we will be talking about on an average the 10 questions. Each of these questions, they are from separate category. Many questions are from previous year exams, previous year CBSE exam. So let's start the today's session with the question number 1. Question number 1 is of 1 mark. That is, write the level of biodiversity which is represented by mangroves and give other examples falling in the same level. When I have started that topic in the first session, we have discussed about the different level. Genetic level was there, the species level was also there. Whereas the mangroves, so they fall under the ecological level. Ecological level. Different categories, different types of animals or the living organisms, they live in it. That's why they come under the ecological level. So give another example which is falling in the same level. In this we have an example of, other example you can also take a tropical rainforest. Tropical rainforest. So many other are also there, so you can take any of the examples. Right, this is called as a ecological level. Example, the first we have studied, that is a mangroves, and second a tropical rainforest is there. Now let's move to the next question. Next question is also for a 1 mark. Now, Icornia classipus is an alien hydrophyte introduced in India. Mention the problem which is posed by this plant. Now, when I was talking about the biodiversity, the different threads of biodiversity, Icornia was one of the alien species, or that is an exotic species. What is this? This is a exotic species or a alien species. Right. So, as it is an alien species, exotic species, as it was introduced in India, the problem which is associated with it is that they cover the whole stagnant water body, due to which whatever the biodiversity which is there in aquatic ecosystem, they get affected. So, this is the major problem. So, they cover the stagnant water, they cover the stagnant water, whole stagnant water, they cover that and affect aquatic animals. And affect aquatic animals. Right, this is an exotic species. So what happens, whatever the animals which are there, which are living below, they will not be able to breathe properly. Even they clog so much. And one more important thing is, when we talk about any species, that species is checked on because the predators are present which is against or which can kill on them. In this case, the natural predator, because it is exotic species, they are introduced into India, so the natural predators, they are absent. Another is that natural predators are absent. Natural predators are absent. When natural predators will not be there, then they will be able to flourish at a very fast rate. Flourish will happen, and ultimately they will do not allow the other aquatic animals, other aquatic plants to grow. So they will consume the whole of the organic products or inorganic products. Now let's move on to the third question. This is also a 1 mark question. Write the importance of cryopreservation in conservation of biodiversity. First of all, what is a cryopreservation? That is preservation at low temperature. Preservation at low temperature. So when we are preserving anything at low temperature, that means what we are doing? We are maintaining their viability. And cryopreservation is one of the latest technique. In this, the gametes are preserved. Gametes are preserved at low temperature so that they can be reused, and this is basically done for those species which are under, or you can say which are in the endangered category, so they can be further formed. So gametes are preserved at low temperature in fertile and viable condition of different endangered species. Different endangered species. This is the importance of a cryopreservation in conservation of biodiversity. Now let's move on to the next question, and the next question is from a different category, that is of a 2 marks. Hope you have noted down this. So, where would you expect more species biodiversity, in tropics or in polar region? Give answers in support of your answers. Give reasons in support of your answers. So, the question indicates that we have a 2 region. One is a tropic region and second is called as a polar region. Tropic region is that region where the biodiversity richness is there. Polar region, they are exposed to glaciation is there. Polar regions are those in which everything is present in the permafrost condition. Sunlight that is not falling directly. Sunlight will not be there, then definitely organism will not be able to live, because organism they depend upon the herbivores, organism they depend upon the photosynthetic plant. If photosynthesis will not happen in those areas, will they be able to survive? Definitely they will not be able to survive. Those which are dependent upon these plants, the herbivores, they will not be able to develop. Even the carnivores will not be able to develop. But still I will not say that those not even a single organism will be there. Definitely organisms will be there, the living organisms will be there, plants will also be there. But when we talk about the species biodiversity will be more in a tropical region than in a polar region, right? So, answer is in tropical region there will be more biodiversity. First part. So, if you will write, you will get a 1 marks. Now, I have to explain about give reasons for that. First thing is that sunlight fall directly. When sunlight is falling directly, that means photosynthesis will be happening. That means organism who will be plants they will be able to flourish, herbivores they will be able to develop over there. So, the sunlight they fall directly. Another is that less seasonal fluctuation. Right? Due to which organisms which will be living in those regions, they will be having the differentiation over there. They will be having a specific niche differentiation will be there. When a niche differentiation will be there, no fluctuation can be seen, then definitely it will lead to speciation. Right? Now, let's move towards the next category of question. This is of the same category, the second 2 marks question number 5. List the feature that make a stable biological community. Any community is considered as a stable when there is a less fluctuation in them, less variations are present in them. Any human interference, any man-made interference if happen, that doesn't affect any community or any biological community. Along with that, the major problem that we are facing today, that is related to the alien species or the exotic species. Those species, those communities considered as a most stable biological community if they will not be affected by any alien or exotic species. So, what are the features? So, you have to explain about the features. First is that less number of variation. Per year, less number of the variations are present. Another thing is that when we talk about the impact, the human impact, that should not get disturbed by human or natural interference. Right? Now, third one is that no impact of alien species. When a no impact of alien species is there, then definitely it means alien species, they will not be able to degrade in the ecosystem. They will not be able to affect whatever the species which is living over there. That means the species which are living there are definitely stable. If they are stable, then definitely such type of community will be called as a stable biological community. So, these are the features that should be present in a stable biological community, right. Now, let us move towards the next question. So, question says why there is a need to conserve the biodiversity. Very good question, very easy also, very direct question. We have so many sources and those sources are only biodiversity. We are depending upon plants, we are depending upon animals, we are depending upon the whole environment for the various resources. And when I was discussing the same in the sessions, we have discussed about the broadly utilitarian, the narrow utilitarian, and we have discussed about you can say the ethical issues which is associated with it. So, in this you have to explain about broadly utilitarian, narrow utilitarian, right. First is a broadly utilitarian. That means we as an organism, we are depending upon these biodiversity. First, for the oxygen and the carbon dioxide balance. You know, it is very important for the survivability, for the sustenance of human being. Not only these, to talk about the pollination process. Bees are there, different bats are there, different mammals are there. They do help in the pollination process. That is the spread of pollen from one place to another. That all come under the broadly utilitarian. Another is a narrow utilitarian. So many products are there which we obtain from plants, such as tannins are there, the raisins are there, and leaves. We used to get food from those, we used to get fruits from these plants. Each of these, they come under the narrow utilitarian. Even the clothes as well, you must have heard of jute. Why we are getting, from where we are getting the jute? From the plants only. And also the ethical issues. We have studied about the sacred groups. So that means the people, they used to, you can say they used to culture, they have a specific culture that they cannot they do not want to interfere into any type of community. That is for there sometimes religious issues they are associated with it. That is called as ethical issues. So they become a sacred community. There will not be any human interference over there. No human interference will be there. Then definitely the population which will be present over there, they will flourish at a very fast rate. And these sacred, sometimes we do keep them for certain issues. Sometimes we feel pleasure out of them while walking in the garden or the going on in different national parks and the wildlife sanctuary. That gives us pleasure, right? So these are the three things that you have to explain. Though it is a 2 marks question, but we have studied the same in detail, and we have another question also regarding this broadly utilitarian and the narrow utilitarian. At that time I will discuss the same in detail. But first of all, note down this, then we will proceed towards the next question. So students, hope you have noted down about this question number 6. Now let's move on to our next question. This is a new category, that is a 3 marks. Let's see. So first of all, read this question, then we will proceed forward. Name and explain any 2 ways that are responsible for loss of biodiversity. So the question indicates that we have to explain about the 3 ways by which the loss of biodiversity happens. We have studied about the n number of ways. In this question, you have to explain about the co-extinction and also you have to explain about introduction of exotic species. Co-extinction and introduction of exotic species. So many other ways are also there, but you can explain any of these. So I have mentioned only 2. So the co-extinction means if 2 organisms, they are in obligate relationship with one another. That means they are depending upon one another. They cannot live without one another. If one of that will, suppose for some reason has happened, some disaster happened, because of it the species one, they get eliminated from the nature. Definitely the chances that the second species which is dependent on obligate relationship with that will also be eliminated. That is called as a co-extinction. Even the plants are there, the pollinators are also there. To talk about the pollinator, if suppose the pollinators, they are extinct from the nature, definitely the plants will not be able to survive, right? So this is called as a co-extinction. Next is the introduction of the exotic species. We have discussed about the Eichhornia, which is also called as a water hyacinth. And this water hyacinth, this is a major problem that we are facing today. Because of these, the water bodies, they are not able to move. They become stagnant, waters are there, and even the ships, they are not able to move from one place to another. That is the exotic species. Because of these, the natural predators are not present in the environment. Definitely they will be able to flourish at a very fast rate. They will be able to affect those individuals as well, which those plants bodies also, which are already living over there. So when they will consume the food at a very fast rate, they will not allow the other species to grow, right? This is a major problem associated with the introduction of the exotic species. So as we have explained the same in the session, I am not going into detail. Let's move on to our next question. So the next question is of question number 8, which is also a 3 marks question, sorry. So the sacred groves of Aravali Hills and the Ooty Botanical Gardens both aim at biodiversity conservation. How do they differ in their approaches? Sacred groves in Aravali, let's write about it. Sacred groves are those groups which are being cultured or which have some religious point of view. For religious point, they become undisturbed. They become undisturbed. when they are undisturbed. That means population or the species diversity in these sacred groups will be high. So, species diversity high. Species diversity is high. When species diversity is high, that means these are the different ways by which a biodiversity conservation can be done. So they are having some ethical views, ethical point of views. We cannot kill them, we cannot, you can say that is of a sacred point of view. So that's why they are called as a sacred groves. Whereas when we talk about the Ooty Botanical Garden, Ooty Botanical Garden, the name itself indicates it's a botanical garden. So you have to explain about the botanical garden in this. That in botanical garden, the plant species they are kept and under the supervision of the expert, the botanist. So, plant species kept under supervision of experts. Right? How do they differ in their approaches and explain? There is a complete difference among them. So you can explain about the examples of other examples of the sacred groups because we have studied in the sessions and you can note down from those. And other we have is a botanical garden. In this the plants they are kept, and those plants sometimes they do belong to endangered categories, sometimes do belong to a vulnerable categories, they can also be kept in this. They are given a suitable environment artificially and they are kept under those supervision. Let's move on to a next question, question number 9. Explain the narrow utilitarian and the broadly utilitarian and ethical arguments in favor of conservation of biodiversity. So this is a 5 marks. So narrow utilitarian that means we are depending upon plant and animal for different product, and those product they can be in the form of a food, they can be in the form of a timber, they can be in the form of a glue, they can be in the form of a fiber, resin, gum, etc. Right? To talk about the broadly utilitarian. In the broadly utilitarian, we have an example of that they act a very good source for balancing the carbon dioxide and oxygen level. They act as a pollinator as well. Pollination, right? Another we have to explain about the ethical arguments. Ethical arguments means these are those issues which we considered as a sacred, and we have explained about the sacred groups. In this you have to explain about the sacred groups. You can take an example of Aravali Hills, you can take any other examples. Some river is also there, some ponds are also there which are having a sacred, which are considered as a sacred. So this is called as a ethical arguments. In this case also you can take for some pleasure also they are being kept, such as the gardens are there. So even that act as a source for conservation of biodiversity. How is designation of the certain area as a hotspot a step towards a biodiversity conservation? Name any 2 hotspots in India. So what is a hotspot? hotspot. Hotspot is those area which are having a highest, or you can say which are famous for a species richness. Species richness is there, and these hotspot, they can be considered, they should be protected because the species richness is very high, biodiversity is very high in those areas. You can talk about the two examples. One is the Himalaya ranges, and second you can take an example of a Western Ghat. Right? So this is the ethical argument, sacred groves are there, species richness, Himalaya ranges, etc. Right? So this is how you have to attempt. I have just written a few words for the narrow utilitarian, but in the sessions we have explained, we have learnt about these in detail. So if you want to learn all those things, this is just an introduction to tell you this is what you have to write. How much you have to write, we have explained in the sessions. You can go back to those sessions and you can watch those sessions. Now let's move on to the next question. If I start writing about this question for 5 marks or the 3 marks, then it will take a large amount of time for me. Now let's move on to the next category. So this is the same category of 5 marks, a long answer type you have to explain. Explain by giving the example how co-extinction is one of the cause of a loss of biodiversity. List 3 causes also. So co-extinction we have discussed when two species, they are in obligate relationship. When two species, they are in obligate relationship, if one gets removed, or if I say if one gets extinct, other will also extinct. This is called as a co-extinction. Now other causes, list the 3 causes also, list the other 3 causes also. Other 3 causes which you can write, that is a habitat loss and fragmentation. Right. Second one is overexploitation. Third one which you can write is the introduction of alien species. Right. In a habitat loss and fragmentation, habitat loss, that means we are cutting trees for our own use, we want a timber, we want so many products from the plants. But actually what we are doing, we are losing the habitat of these individuals, these plants, and we are affecting the biodiversity actually. When we are making a roads in between, you must have seen when we make or when we go to some mountain or when we go anywhere between the forest, some roads is there, you will definitely see 1 or 2 animals, they are lying on the road and they get accidentally crushed because of these moving vehicles. And sometimes we say that last time when I was going on one of the trip that was in Dehradun, we were going in that area. So the monkeys, they were there, and one of the monkey, he was lying on a road, and the people were saying these monkeys are stupid, they cannot move back, don't they know that traffic is going from this direction, why they come towards this side. But actually this is not their mistake, this is our mistake. We are inhabiting, we are going in those areas, we have prepared those road in between this, that is our mistake, that is not their mistake. So actually those areas belong to them, they are having those areas, they are confined to those areas, and when they get crushed, this is our mistake. So What we are doing is a habitat loss and the fragmentation, making roads, etc. We are obtaining product with which we are cutting trees, and even in a tree, lots and lots of the animals they are living. Starting from the various insects to various birds, and the large birds, they have a nest over there, due to which if one tree is cut, so many other animals they become a loss. They do not have a proper nest for them. Over-exploitation, whenever any human being, any person is consuming anything beyond their need, that is called as a greed. And you know, human being is famous for the greedy nature. That is called as over-exploitation. Over-exploitation of anything is injurious. Anything of over-exploitation, normally when we eat also, when we overeat also, we used to gain weight. To talk about a biodiversity, we are over-exploiting these. Animal tusk is used, so many other, poaching is a major problem that we are facing today. So that is a over-exploitation. So that should be suppressed. And we have already discussed about the introduction of the exotic species. So while attempting such type of question, because it is a 5 marks question, you have to write the examples as well. Again and again I am writing Icornia, you can take in any other examples and you have to explain that in detail. Because you all are preparing for the CBSE, you are preparing for one subjective paper. So try to write things when you are preparing for any of the question or you are going, suppose the exam is near, you have studied everything as per your biology is considered, suppose you have studied. Try to take out the sample question paper and write down each and everything. Take out that this should be the limit for me and I have to complete the paper suppose in the 2 hours or the 3 hours. In that limit, try to write everything. Unnecessary, do not write anything. If it is of 5 marks, then do not write like you are writing a story and you are making a pages, you are writing pages and pages and pages. Don't do that. That will give you a negative point. When you are writing each of these, suppose I have mentioned these 3 points. These 3 points, they should be separately underlined, or you can use some pencil also while underlining. And you can use a scale also, so that whenever examiner, suppose I am your examiner and I want to check your answer sheets. I will not be having only one answer sheet, I will be having thousands of answer sheets. So what I will do, I will check, while checking first of all I will focus on whether the students has mentioned these points or not. If it is mentioned, definitely you will get a good marks. So try to underline those important points out of these. So we have completed today one more chapter, that is a biodiversity and its conservation. So one last chapter is left. In that last chapter we will be discussing about the first chapter first, then we will move towards again the exercise of that. So hope you enjoyed the today's session. We'll meet in the next session. Till then, take care of yourself. Thank you so much students for watching this.